Welcome to Conversation with Haych. My name is H, as you know. Back with the panel, Justin, Julian, Alex, Bam, and Tafari. And this time we're talking about marriage, lust, and the church.
Oh, bro, you threw lust in there.
Oh, you didn't hear? Oh.
You missed the big L word.
Wow.
You missed the big L word.
Head out.
We're gonna have an open. This is gonna probably be a 10-minute conversation, but we're gonna have an open, transparent conversation about these kind of things. So, now first question is easy. How important in this day and age is it to have a strong male role model?
Oh, definitely, bro. I think it's important because then you can see either what you think a man should do or be doing, or see what a man shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I had loads of male figures coming up as a youth, and a lot of them, I didn't want to be like any of them, but what was good about having those people in my life is seeing what I didn't want to become and what I didn't want to do. So it's a blessing in disguise almost of having that type of person, that type of male figure in your life. But it's definitely important to have, a strong, grounded male figure in your life.
When I say strong, I don't necessarily even mean that the person's got it all together, all the time.
Yeah.
I just, for me, this and maybe for what Farah was saying, what sounds like he's saying, is the transparency of that male figure.
Yeah.
That I can come and have that conversation, and they're willing to share that knowledge with me. So, before I got married, I didn't even have counseling for marriage and that. I didn't even have it. But nah, bro. No one ever offered it. We'll get onto that. But you'll hear people say, boy, just say yes to the wife. Communicate. You know what I mean? Like what are you talking about? So for the last 30 years, you've just been saying yes. You know what I'm saying?
Is that right?
I need the transparency.
Is that right?
Yeah, I need that. That's not gonna help me on the days when it's like when everything's going rosy and the bills are paid and the kids are fine and I love you, you love me, you got little lingerie and I've booked hotel. When that's happening, communicate. But what happens when you're like, yo, I don't even know if this marriage is the right thing?
Wow.
Just say yes. That's not good enough in those moments. I need that male role model to be transparent, to be like, yo, you're gonna feel like this, this may happen and this is what we did, and I need that. Otherwise, marriage is just you get married and everything's a-okay.
I just want to say, when I say about strong males, I'm not talking like Diego rightly said, but hopefully we get a chance to talk about toxic masculinity a little bit.
I'd say for me, I've really benefited throughout my life of having strong male role models around me. I'd say it changes as well, because when I was younger, or when you're younger, I guess it's always older guys who you look at who you class as like strong male role models. But at this age, it's my peers. Understand? It's man like you guys who I look at as role models, as well as the older generation. And I think that having male role models around you is a way to encourage you to do better as well, to do better in life. It sets a standard that you want to meet. And I think it's a way that I feel pushed. I've learned a lot just by watching how other men do it. And yes, when my time comes, I'm going to do it my way, but I will be taking bits from just taking, because at the end of the day, every man who I look to is because they have nuggets, them golden nuggets that I think, yeah, man, I need a piece of that. I need a piece of that. So for me, very important.
Morgan's and that.
Me. Oh, yeah. I echo what all these men have said. Do you know what I mean? And I'm looking forward to when we get into the toxic masculinity thing as well. I think having a strong male role model as well offers somewhat of a protection as well for yourself. So somebody you can go to in those times of need. One of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 17:17. It talks about a brother is born, for a time of need or in adversity, or for adversity, depending on what version you're looking at. And the reason why I say that is because the strong brothers around you, the strong fathers around you, genuinely you can go to filter through what you need to say sometimes before you come back to your woman. Because sometimes some things in a rawest sense and the rawest form can't go to your woman the same way, because you come in at a place and she's going to receive it a particular way. So having those strong males that are able to handle the weight of what you're about to say, not judge you, and then give you the real and help you respond effectively is very helpful at times. And that's me learning as an engaged man of God.
Every man said pretty much so good things, and I think a strong man is important. From my experiences growing up, having males that are strong around me, not perfect, and I think sometimes the notion that they're perfect and when they get things wrong, it has a massive effect. Is something that we need to kind of talk about, and because I put certain people in a position of like complete perfection, and when they flopped, it mashed me up in turn. But I think strong men are important, and one thing that Justin said that was really quite key. I think as we've got older, my peers have become great examples of manhood as well. Like every man in this chat, if I needed to, I know I can go to them about something. So I'm trying to say, the married man in this chat, I know they can give me some real nuggets of information. You get me? Fathers, do you know what I'm trying to say? So I think as time's gone on, the peer group has become somewhat a example of manhood and strong manhood as well.
So why does pride, essentially we're kind of moving into the toxic masculinity conversation, why does pride tend to be something that always raises its head for us as men in practically most relationships that we're in? Why does pride come into play?
Can I speak for myself on this one?
Yeah, that's
because obviously it's certain that I wouldn't say I struggle with in that, but I think one of the things that I've always struggled with in life is I don't ever want to feel violated. Don't violate me still. The moment I feel violated is the moment you challenge my manhood.
Is this when the toxic masculinity kind of comes in a little bit?
This is what I'm saying. And like the moment you've violated me, or I feel that you tried to violate, man, me and you have to get on levels, because I have to do something to make sure that don't ever try to challenge my manhood again. And that's something I've had to deal with over time, because otherwise I'll just be swinging on everybody. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Why is it something that I deal with? I don't know. I think, well, to be honest, you know what? Let's be real, fam. Let's be real. When I was younger, I got molested, innit? I got molested at 7, 8. So, I think when that happened, there was an element of my personage that was taken, innit? And I think when I look back, I think that's where the feeling of I don't ever want to be violated again comes from. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I think for a lot of time in my life, I've then sought to get that back. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Which explains some of the habits that I was going on with. Do you know what I mean? Like I was always trying to get something back and assume control. And I think that even seeped into my relationship with God, bruv. Like not having control has been difficult for me. Submitting to God is difficult even now, because I'm someone that I want to know what's happening next. And I know that some of it goes back to that time where for a period of time, I was just getting touched up and violated. You get what I'm trying to say? So I think for me, that's where a lot of my pride comes from. That's I can only talk for myself.
That's deep, Lord. Very deep. And I think also what I'm hearing from that and from my own experience, I feel like the counterpart to pride is the vulnerability. That we find it very hard to be vulnerable, and we don't want to be put ourselves in a vulnerable state. So I try and work on not necessarily not to be so prideful, but to allow myself to be vulnerable, to allow myself to be hurt. When you're looking at it and approaching it as a Christian, Jesus laid the most vulnerability down. He should have had the biggest pride, but he became so vulnerable that he allowed space for love to be able to be passed and transferred over to me. So that's what I have to be able to do. I have to be able to be vulnerable, that even when my manhood is challenged, you're just challenging it. You haven't broken it. Just because you call me an idiot doesn't necessarily make me one. And so I have to know that I'm not an idiot, for them to me be able to address and be like calmly or however, or diplomatically, to be like, that is why you think that. But I know that I'm not to those standards that you're saying that I am. And that's where I work on in that place, how I react to what I hear rather than not wanting to hear it. Because it's gonna come.
I hear that. I received that as well, blood. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I think pride. I'm still asking God to help me to know how to be vulnerable. I think time and just growing up, I've always put myself across or tried to put myself across as a man's man. So that whole toxic masculinity, I hear that 100%. And I think getting older, I'm starting to appreciate the value in being vulnerable as a man, and just allowing yourself to, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to go and talk to someone about that. Yeah. And I think that whole pride, it definitely stems from society and what society presents as this is what a man should be like. And obviously the world's idea of a man is different to what God sees as a man. The Bible says a broken and contrite heart God will not despise. So
Justin, can I ask you a quick question, if that's all right?
Yeah.
Do you think that it's so different in terms of what the Bible says, what the church teach you necessarily different to the world? Because in my quick experience, that my wife found it very difficult to become a wife because the world tells her the way in which to be a woman, but the way in which the world tells me to be a man is very similar to what the church was saying. Make sure you got your house, make sure you got the money, and that was kind of it. So
you see, I hear what you're saying. I guess from my experience, and the way it's taught to me, or how I've been taught how I should be as a man, it is different. I would say there's similarities in terms of having certain things in order in place, but I guess the importance or the way certain things are emphasized in the world are different to how things are emphasized in the church.
Okay.
So it's more so about loving your wife as Christ of the church. That's something that's drummed into me, and being able to lead, be a leader, be a spiritual leader, all those kind of things. And again, similar with what the world says, but I guess the emphasis is different for me. But yeah, man, that's my 2 pence on that pride thing.
Mark.
I think what I was gonna say, Justin, like, I think the teaching of love is different. You know, what the world sees as love is always going to be different to what we know as Christians. The love that Christ teaches us to have for our wife is an unending thing. You get me? It's a sacrificial love. It's one of them ones where it's like, like when I think vows, blood, there's no get out clause, bro. Like there's literally nothing, and it's like that's the level at which you're gonna you should be willing. The thing is, I'm not married, innit? Like me and Justin are talking about like commitment and everything. Then there's definitely 3 married men in this conversation.
You get me?
Definitely take over from me at point. Just let. But what I'm saying, I think the standard that the world gives in terms of love is different to what the church does, and the church should never waver from what it has. I think in some cases the church may have wavered from the truth of what love is in a marriage, a godly marriage anyway. But I'll let the married man talk.
I mean, I guess, and this is, I guess before I'll say this and you man jump in, but I think as well, culture comes into it as well. Culture and tradition comes into what we're told a man is and how we should be. We've been given the very Caribbean, this is how it goes, you understand? And even that, some aspects of that doesn't even align with what the word is saying. You get me?
My question to Tafari then, just to kind of on the back of this, is, as being a married man, do you feel, because how Christ sacrificed himself for the church and how he loved the church, do you feel sometimes how we love our wives stops us from being vulnerable? So I'll give you an example. So sometimes if we want to make sure that bills are paid and all these different types of things are cool, if we're in a little bit of a jam and money ain't as right as it is, do we then go over and do so much where we don't even speak to them about what we're going through, but then we try and run ourselves in the ground to show them this love? Do you get me? Do you think that?
Yeah. I think what the world teaches and what we should be living as Christians are 2 completely different things. And I think the world teaches you to constantly cut off and dash away anytime you feel uncomfortable, or anytime that you don't want to be a part of that. Whereas, you know, the Bible talks about unconditional love. So love without conditions, love without, oh, I'm going to love you, but only if you get me. That's not how you can go into a marriage with. And so even talking about this money thing, I went back to uni now, tried to cut down my hours at work, was making just enough money, you know, to cover the bills in the yard. So what I wanted to do, I couldn't do it because I didn't have the means. But I refused to ask my wife for any type of help because I just, in my mind, a man is there to provide, get me, and look after his family regardless. And so I was making sure that what was needed was sought, you get me? But in that, it put us in a jam. And had I just been open, and like Diego was saying, been vulnerable and say, yo, wifey, this is the jam that I'm in. You get me? I would not have had to work an extra job, which was taking time away from friends, from family, from wife, from all of that. You get me?
Can I ask a question then, Tafari? Say like that situation popped up again now. How would you now then act?
I'm saying, yo, wifey, we're in a jam. Help me. Help me!
I asked that question.
You know what? I say that, yeah, but Diego will tell you there's times when I need stuff, and I know that if he's got, he will give. But the way that I'm set up, I just don't like to ask.
That's pride, don't it?
Pride.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't like to ask because I've been rejected before. There's been times where I've asked, you know, my family members to help me, you get me? And I don't ask for help unless I'm in a very sticky situation, you get me? And so in asking and not even, you know, being acknowledged, that puts up that barrier and builds up that pridefulness to not make you be open and honest and ask. You get me?
And you know what that then does as well? And Alex, I'll come to you in a minute. You know what that then does? That builds up the pride that you have with people who are actually willing to help you out. That's what it does. It builds up that wall of people who you know 1,000%. If I go to this person,
right out,
they're gonna just, I got it. Boom, money. Whether it's I need somewhere to stay, whether it's food, whatever it is, I know I can go to this person. But because you've been rejected once, twice, it could be 10 times, but sometimes it's just the one time. It's the one time from the wrong person. It's the one time from the wrong person. And because that one person's rejected you, you've now got the wall of Jericho around you. To stop you from connecting with the people that are actually in a position to help you out and are willing to help you out, and you know they're willing. And it's just because, listen, when I was 7 or when I was 10 or when I was 13, when I asked my parents to buy this and they said no, I'm not going to ask no one for nothing. I'm just going to build my thing. And that's for some people, that's their reality. For some people, it's when I was at uni and I was struggling and I asked my parents for £5 and they said, I ain't got it this week, but I'll give it to you next week. That's their sense of rejection of, I'm not even going to talk to my wife about anything because I need to now be in a position to build myself up. I'm not going to talk to my friends because I still need to be in a position where I'm like, I got it all together.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
100.
But yeah, Alex, so...
I just think, what are you saying? You got a question?
Yeah, so you're in a similar, well, not a similar position, but you're in a position of, you know, engaged to be married. So do you feel you're having to work on things of yourself from a pride perspective now? So when you get into the marriage, it doesn't kind of rear its head? Or do you feel like you kind of hit a good point and let's see how this marriage thing goes?
100% still working on it, you know what I mean? I believe that even because we did counselling as well in it, so we've done a certain amount of counselling, and that was good. It really did help. It helped. You know, I think the hardest counselling sessions were where we literally just had an argument, and now we got to go to counselling. So the question there in counselling is, do we bear it all before the counsellor or pretend like everything's okay? So I would sit back, and we both sit back for about 5 minutes, and she just unraveled the whole thing. Christian lady loved it, and that taught me a lot about my pride. That you know, pride can often be a family thing sometimes. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily my family is prideful, but there's definitely family members I've been around that operate in pride. So their patterns and behaviors, which I couldn't identify as pride, I've now taken on for myself. And now I'm just now a prideful person in the way I am, in the way I act. And I think even when we talk a bit about culture, you know, culture is often shaped by the thinkers and the influencers of society. That's what culture is shaped by. So the way they think and the way they influence, and whatever they do, we do. Whereas the Bible is completely different to that. And learning more about what God says about pride and how he despises the proud, I'm starting to think, hold on, I don't want to be somebody that God despises. So whatever aspects of my life I need to uproot, I will uproot. Because for me personally, one thing that I'll definitely have operated in pride in was when it comes to things like insecurity, personal insecurity, where it comes to that. I have a constant need to want to, I say have or had, but it sometimes comes up a need to prove myself. But that comes back from way back when I never used to. I've got, you know, Julian's in this chat right now. He's my twin. Julian is an A-star student, and I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. Julian's an A-star student. Do you know what I mean? Julian was the creme de la creme of black boys. You know what I mean? If they want to pick that black boy to be the poster, I gotta gash you.
I can vouch for that, Alex. I was there at that college.
Literally,
I was there.
if it wasn't for his troublesome self, he probably would have been maybe potentially school captain of his final school, along with all the other captaincies that he had throughout primary school and stuff. But you gotta understand, we're twins. So there's forever a point where I'm trying to prove myself. He went to the school that was harder to get into. So I had to dissect this in myself. I'm like, hold on. There's an element of jealousy or envy that's leading to pride towards my brother. But it's not just towards my brother. It's towards the fact that this person is doing better than me and I can't do what they do.
That's a deep one.
I had to realize for myself, I'm a unique individual. And that helped me break a bit of my pride, because pride often is trying to prove not often is, but pride sometimes can come across as trying to prove to be something that you're not. So other people perceive you a particular way. So other people see you a particular way. And for me, I had to stop being seen in a particular way and start to be seen how God authentically wants me to be seen. And that was what I've done to break pride at times. And when it comes to my relationship, that's why I have to look back. Sometimes I get into some of the dumbest arguments and all sorts of thoughts go through my head. But then I have to take it back to myself and say, well, Alex, what did you do wrong? What did you do wrong? Is that really touching on the undealt with insecurity in you? Then I'll go away, I'll go for a long walk, and then I'll come back to the phone. And then it's a conversation, and then I'm acknowledging my wrongs, and I'm not bringing her wrongs up either.
And that's the thing. And there's two things you said there, which is quite key for me in terms of acknowledging where you went wrong first. It's all well and good acknowledging where you went wrong after you've already told her, well, you did this. And when I did that, you did this. And when I was there, you was there. That don't work, because that just caused more arguments. That just caused more stress on your relationship. It's about acknowledging what you did wrong first, but then it's about saying, okay, let's get back together into this thing and let's have a proper conversation about where we both went wrong. Have we both acknowledged where we are? Because if we don't, and we just come in this thing and you're trying to blame me and I'm trying to blame you, then it's not going to work.
That's one of the hardest things, you know, fam.
Accountability, that's the word right there.
Yeah, one of the hardest things, and she won't mind me being transparent on this, is that, and we've done a little test.
Make sure you make sure you man got clearance, you know, because when this thing comes out, and if you man ain't got clearance, if you man ain't got clearance, and then I'm getting messages from the wives and that, and the
secret messages. I bet you just delete
I've got clearance. I know I've got clearance. I will be often the one that says sorry first, and probably the smallest percentage of the time I'll get a physical I'm sorry back. But that's something that I've learned, that okay, maybe a pattern of behavior that I don't necessarily like, but I'm not going to allow that to allow pride to rise up in me to fight that now as the new thing.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for a real reconciliation process that's authentic as well to both of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get prideful about little the minutiae of the conversation. Do you know what I mean?
And using bad words, you know,
Alex, I'm going to need definition on that one now.
That sounds like a Haagen-Dazs flavor, you get me? Manouche flavor, you know.
That's in Hebrew. I hear that. I hear that still.
So then my question would then be, let's kind of relate this to church, and because I always like to bring stuff back to church, because essentially we're, as much as you guys might not see it, we're pioneers in our churches in whatever we're doing. We're pioneers, like as much as we might not be there now, a lot of the stuff that we're going to do moving forward, we'll be pioneers of the first to do what we do in our churches, the first to do what we do in our denominations, essentially. So I'm just putting that out there. But let's talk about our churches, and let's talk about, as we're growing up as men in churches, do we feel like they give us the support to get into relationships, have God-filled relationships, and help us and support us during marriage? That's kind of a fully loaded question, but do you feel like, and we need honesty, because I'll go first. So you get me? Everyone take a deep breath in that. Everyone be like, woo! I got Zoom Sunday service coming up. I'll be honest. Like, luckily for me, I had my dad and my granddad. So for me, it's a bit different. So I can say church, but really, it comes down to individuals that go to this particular church. It's not so much the church, because there's some people in church that I respect because you're my brother or my sister, but we're not having a conversation about Wagwan. We're not having no transparent conversation, because one, I either don't like how you move in particular with your situation. Two, you just come in to talk to me just to talk to me, and you don't really care. It's just more so where, brother here, Dan, how you doing? Kind of thing.
That chat with you though.
Nah, that part was mad. That sounded Bayesian, blood. That sounded Bayesian. That sounded Bayesian. I don't know. Oh, listen.
Coolie boy.
Chat with blood.
That was one of them there.
That was the St. Kittian. That was the St. Kittian coming out of our words. Whoa. That was the Nevis. That was the Nevis. Anyway, we'll cut that part out. Anyway. So,
leave that in. Put it in, and all you doing.
Everyone okay in here? Everyone okay?
Garden again.
We got one of our brothers who's from Bahamas. I was just, doing what he does. So basically, but what I'm saying is, for me, I wouldn't go to certain people in church just because I don't think they're real. And that's me being 100. Like, there's certain people that I can go to, my bishop, my dad. There's probably a couple other people I can go to have a frank conversation and be like, yo, this is where I'm going. However, there's other people who I'm just like, I don't need to talk to you. No disrespect, but you're not going to be real with me. I don't want to talk to you for you to tell me pray about it or tell me read my Bible. Wow. I need you to talk to me and be like, yo, this time last week, me and mine got into this situation. This is how I got out of it. It might not work for you, but I'm just giving you a word of encouragement. And then we can start talking Bible and da-da-da-da-da. But if you're not going to be transparent, then the conversation's lost on me already. But that's just me anyway.
I think a lot of us will probably have the same story, really. Church is the practical advice of how to maneuver in relationships and marriage. I don't think it's as vast as it should be in terms of enough people. Like, my experience, if I'm honest, I think the only time someone really tried to reach out to me on a clergy tip was when I got my son's mum pregnant. That was the first time someone tried to have a proper conversation with me about Wagwan. And these times I'm already...
It's too late.
You're the Indian. Man said about the Indian streets. Man said about the Indian streets.
What do you mean? I was in the cul-de-sac. I was every, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get me? Like,
deposit. I was already put down that number for the deposit.
At that point.
That helped to buy, boy. That's done already.
I'm mugging the thing. You know what? Okay, let me be real. The realest person, or the person that came with the real, came with the worst advice, because they were like 3-4 years down the line on the same thing. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But they were the only ones that were willing to try and have a conversation with me, bro.
Imagine they came with the worst advice.
Said the realest person was the worst advice.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the sense of they were the problem. Willing to have a conversation.
That's the problem. Right there, what you just said, bro. That's the problem. The fact that you have people who are in a position where they can offer sound advice and they are acting it out, But what happens is, if they don't say nothing, then you get the other end where, they might be being real with you, but at the same time,
they're in it at the moment. A lot of the time, they're in it. They're like, oh yeah, yo, listen, that was last week. That could have been me, you know.
That's deep. I'd say for me, personally, growing up, there was my generation, and then there's a generation just above my generation. So them guys there, like we would sit down and talk. I remember one time I was checking a girl in college, and like, you know, when you secure the gal in college, I secured the gal.
The
one. I remember
J_C_199. That's what it was, bro. The source was there from early, bro. Yeah.
Oh, I'm secured now.
The go.
But in my heart to heart, I know that I can't serve God and be with this girl. I know that, innit? But it's like, I'm sitting in church and I'm having this inner battle, and I thought, you know what?
That's that conviction, you know.
Who can I talk to?
That's that inner conviction,
bro. And thank God, he directed me to someone who I could talk to. And we literally went round the back and I said, listen, this is the situation. She's fire. She's fire. I don't want to leave her because I've secured, you know, them one.
Could have been a passer.
I remember, like, he listened to me. He deeped what I was saying. And he said something that shook my core. You understand? He's literally like, think of a field. He said, now imagine that whole field is eternity, and you have to, and one blade of grass signifies your life. He said, all you need to do is hold it down for that one blade of grass, and then you get the whole field. And in my head, I was thinking, you know what? Let me send her the text from now and be like, you know what, babes, it's done. You know, it's done. In my head, I was just like, you know what? That penetrated me, and I was thinking, you know what? I'm lucky that I had man around who I could go to and be that real with, and they will come with the wisdom, the nuggets, man. It helped. So,
and that's the thing. For me, I think apart from my dad, like I'm going to talk about people in church. Yeah, I don't think I had no one growing up really that I could have had that conversation with, because at the end of the day, us man were dealing with things from early. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like we're struggling with certain things from early. Like I don't have no one I could speak to. Shut up,
no judgment. We're in a room of no judgment.
From early, boy. From early.
Do you know what I mean? But I don't, and you know what? Tell a lie, yeah. Even in the church that I grew up in with, like the people that were in the age group above me, they weren't struggling. They didn't have my struggle, blood.
Did you think that because they never told you that it was the case?
I would say one person came to me and tried to be real, but their experience, it wasn't real. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It was still surface. Do you know what I'm trying to say? They never really took the time to understand where I was and the plight that I was going towards, bruv. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'll never forget the fact that I was about to join a uni, bruv. One of the brothers from my church went to the same uni and didn't give me no advice, bruv, about that uni. And that uni was sin, blood. Do you know what I'm trying to say? No one told me, do not go to the ACS, bruv. No one told me that.
Remember the ACS?
Blood. No, my biggest advice to any young man, do not go to the ACS, bruv.
Sorry, I walked down the street one time and I saw Julian standing on the wall singing. I want an ACS parties in Selly Oak.
Oh, bloods. Bam.
I'm standing on the
wall. But like I'm busting joking. I'm making it lighthearted, but I don't feel like people gave me the real. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, just to hear that story from me, and you would have been what, 16, 17, 18 and whatnot.
17, 18.
That's great advice in the moment, and you felt, and God directed you to the right person. And obviously from then you knew that person was the one you could probably go to.
But this is the thing, you know, I do think that the church makes a lot of things taboo as well.
But I think that's culture as well, you know.
Yeah. Like there's certain things that, like, man didn't hear porn mentioned and all that. Like, you have to go and literally bring it up. You understand? Or
I had to experience it first.
It's either you bring it up or you get caught, one of them ones, and then it gets spoke about. So Why?
Man said, or you get
It's
caught,
like,
them sticky
either you get
situations
caught or you
there,
bring
bro.
it up. That's where
There's no in between.
like, and I guess for me, and I think this is something which is becoming a thing more now, is that we're trying to create a forum in church where the young people feel like they can talk about anything and they can come forward with these things. Because for you, Julian, when you're saying about how why a man came to you after you've already got the girlfriend, it's too late, bro. It's literally too late.
Blood.
Like, yo,
My bank
we should
account
have been
sees
having
it.
this from
It's too
early.
late every month, blood. I'll tell you that, blood.
So Bam and Farai, because obviously, if I remember correctly, you guys didn't grow up in church like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you've gone from not growing up in church and then coming into church and having people not be real kind of thing.
It was weird.
You know,
it was
that's
weird,
deep,
you know. It was rather weird because obviously when you I don't want to say like the roads like that, but when you've come from like the streets and that, there's a whole code of keeping it real. And whether people abide by that code or not, in that same sense, you understand why on the road someone's gonna lie to you because they saw something, they were jealous and da. So when you're coming to church and they're saying, you know, God loves an honest man and, you know, just give it all to God. So, you know, when we were first going to church, we was like, yo, pastor, there's this thing pressed last night, she's good, but I'm here now. Like, it's the real conversations because I was told I can come to church, come as I am,
and just be real.
and have the and have that conversation back. But no, like my pastor was right or die, you get me? So, but again, I think it's more of a generation and a cultural thing. So he was taken aback by the things that we were saying, but he was always like, okay, this is what we can do. Or it would always be like, okay, because we were like, oh, the Bible study is not hitting for the young people. He's like, okay, we'll do a youth Bible study then. So he was always unpractical. So when I'm saying the next bits, I don't want it to make it seem like he's not doing nothing. He was definitely on the job. But again, because I didn't grow up in church, I didn't have that relationship with anybody to ask those questions. And no one to talk to apart from my team that I came in with. We were all in the same position. That's why I'm thankful for the relationship that I have with God, because I couldn't have done counseling, blood, because the way that people perceived me and the person I actually was to like my partner are two different things, you get me? So people will see me as quiet and timid, but you don't know I'll run my mouth when I'm ready to, you know? And I will tell you that. You get me? So giving me the suggestions of just, you know, when you and your wife argue, go and pray. What are you talking about? I'm ready to go. I'll pray by myself when I've left the house. That's when I'll do it. Like, I'm being honest. I'm not thinking about God in that moment. So what God done to me, and you know, I'm thankful for the way that God speaks to me, because I can hear God speaking to me. I can hear Him talking. He will send me to scriptures, and I remember I was like, God, no one can't cancel me. I'm not going to listen because their marriage is dead to me as well. So I'm not listening to their thing. But you're the author of marriage. And he told me to go and look at every marriage, every relationship in the Bible and look at the pros and the cons from Adam and Eve to Sarah and Abraham, and to go through that. Sarah called him Lord, and God said something to Abraham, but Sarah said to do the opposite thing. And he went and done the opposite thing, and now we're in this mess. So that taught me about listening to God first, and then you got Boaz, and you know, I'm going through, and then you finally get to and you are now the bride of Christ. Okay, cool. So I know the position as a husband, but I also understand that I'm also a bride that has to listen and be grounded still. You get me? That even in the husband place, I can still learn. You get me? The same way that I treat my wife is the same way that God will treat me. So if my wife makes error and mistake, I have to be in the position of God. You have to have
that same grace.
That same grace that God's got for me. So because I know the grace that God has got for me, the level of grace I then show my wife has to kind of double, because I'm like, yo, I can't even be in a position to get mad like that, because God didn't even get mad with me like that. So let me belie you. But again, that takes time. And I only could do that for the person I am, with God saying, do this. Because I don't trust people like that. You get me? I need to see the fruit of what you're saying.
Lord, let me.
Sorry, before you go to Julian, Farai.
Yeah, I think at church they teach you about you know, that you should get married and that you should be, you know, equally yoked. And at the end of it, then that's that. You get me? There's no follow through really. And if there's counseling, it's not really advertised, so to speak. You get me? Me and my wife went to counseling. We had one session. Session was trash. Didn't help at all. Made me feel worse.
What?
Said I'm not doing this again. Oh yeah, 100%. Because we went in there for counseling, for help. You get me?
Yeah.
But then somehow we got turned around about how Tafari feels this and, you know, is that and blah blah blah. I said, big man, that's not the case. But whatever, I can't keep, and that's what it was. You know, I couldn't keep it 100 with my man. That's just simple as it was. You get me? So, in being in church and seeing those married couples, even though we were asking, we weren't getting the real. And it was like, oh, how's marriage? Oh, it's really good. You know, it's really good. You know, all those things. It's dandelion and sunshine. You get me? But when man was, you know, coming into this thing, it was like, you are a liar, big man. You understand? So man was learning on the job, and man was learning with each other. So boom, Esther got married, cool. Man can go to him and ask him certain ones and twos. Diego got married, man can ask him certain ones and twos. Philly got married, man can ask him ones and twos. But then also, like Diego was saying, it's about hearing God's voice. You get me? And thank God, I know what his voice sounds like, and it's not audible. You get me? And it might be for some, but it's not for me. And so I'm a dreamer, so God will show me dreams about things that I need to work on, things that are hindering our growth, people who I needed to speak to about what specific thing and all those things. So no, church didn't really tell me anything about marriage other than we should be equally yoked. But even then, equally yoked and we're still in problems sometimes. You understand?
You see, on that counseling tip though, are you, because this is the question that I have, because man, like there's the counseling where you have it with your pastors, isn't it? So then that's the first opportunity you get to be real with them, and you don't know if they're ready for the real, and then you give them the real, then they look at you a completely different way. Part of the reason why I never did that, and I never went with the pastors of my church. I did external counseling. I guess my question is, what would it then take you guys to get, if needed, any external counsel outside of your collective?
If that person kept it 100, if I knew that you weren't slapping up your wife and coming to me talking about, oh, you know, me and my wife are never in any problem, you haven't kept it 100. You understand? And Diego will know when I talk, man talk. You understand? The space is safe. Yeah, so man can talk about anything and everything, and then man will hold me accountable and say, boom, I hear what you're saying, but nah, you're wrong. Or you get me? Yeah, actually, you were in the right, but get me to think about it from a different perspective. But now, if he's not keeping 100 with me and he's telling me that his thing is all dandelion and butterflies, and I know that it's not that blood, then it's dead. It can't run. I can't confide in you and give you my truth, and you're not willing to reciprocate that same energy.
Wow.
It's magic.
God, we went to a conference, blood, and this geezer could not say wet dream.
Allow it, fam.
How can we have a conversation about anything, blood? We can't have a conversation. You can't say wet dream, big man, and you've got a son. Get out of town.
No, I was gonna say, Bam, what you said about just going through the Bible and doing the pros and cons thing with everything. I've never heard that before, bruv. Never heard that before. But big man, I think that's sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it's going through the before to get to the culmination of what God's perfect image of marriage is. Do you get me? So, bro, Bible plan, fam. What do you mean?
Bro. And it's about what is God saying? You get me? Because you want what you want in that relationship, and you know what you want out of it, and how you think it should look. You get me? And how you think you should do with stuff. But if that doesn't match up with the Bible, it's dead. You get me? People go into marriage with condition and say, oh, well, my get out clause is divorce if you do this. You should be going into that marriage thinking, yo, we're gonna bump heads. There's gonna be days where I'm not gonna like this person, and they might not like me. However, I love this person enough to stay and work through it for as long as possible.
Yeah. And I think that's for me, that was for me the hardest thing, bro. Like, not hardest thing, I'm not married or anything, but I'm thinking in terms of like marriage, there's no get out clause, bruv. And I feel like
only death blood, and we don't even want that to happen.
Trust
to
me.
them.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like,
come on now, Ben.
But this is the thing, and I'm like, I think a lot of people get into marriage not realizing what they're doing and what they're saying in the vows, bruv. Like, it's without condition, bruv. Like, that's it. You get me? Like, that's it. And like far as it, like, you know, I'm in a relationship for whatnot, but I'm not in a marriage yet. But like, yo, there's days where, like, I remember one of the first times me and my girlfriend at the moment had an argument, bruv. And bearing in mind, I think our honeymoon phase went for time, bruv. And then with the first argument, and I was like, it mashed me up because I was like, I started doubting straight away, like, is this even the right one? Because we shouldn't be butting heads like this. But I was like, that's stupid, fam. We're two worlds coming together. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Learning about each other. Of course, there's going to be friction. And I think that rosy image of marriage that is portrayed in the church a lot of the time. Like, I don't know how many people, I don't think people give the real, fam. You know, but what I'm happy about is the fact that there's man like you, man, bruv. Every man that I know that's my age that is married is not afraid to give the real. And that's not in a disrespect to your partner or to your wife, but it's the respect of the actual covenant of marriage that, yo, it is not always going to be easy. There's peaks and troughs, but I made a vow, you know, that for better, for worse, and I hold on to that. And I appreciate everyone in this chat that's doing it, bruv, like real talk and keeping it real.
You know what the craziest thing is? I think we're going to have to end it there, you know, because we've been talking for time. And so we're going to have to revisit this.
Part three, bro.
We're going to have to revisit this at some point in time. Because we didn't even touch on loss. We didn't touch on struggle.
Boy, lost, you know.
That's his old combo, bro.
We didn't even touch on that. So
that tuggy tug, boy. That cornhole, boy. That red tube. You understand?
We even touched on that, and the thing is, the craziest thing is as well. Like, I know audience of people that I have is people who are gonna need to hear that discussion and need to hear how they can get out of that or how they can start to overcome that. But that might have to be a whole separate conversation that we have to come back and have. Do you get me? So the reason why I kind of got you guys is because I know you'll keep it real and you'll just be keeping it 100 in terms of what we're talking about. But the main thing is coming back to biblical principle in terms of what we're trying to achieve with having these conversations. We all know that we're, as I said, we're going to be pioneers in whatever we choose to go into, whatever our fields are. But we're also going to be we're going to be pillars for our community as well. So there's going to be a lot of people who look up to us that are in the Christian community, a lot of people that look up that are in the community that we live in, a lot of people that just look up to us because we're black men trying to do something that's seen as positive, but we know it's God-led. So I want to thank you guys for tonight. It's been great. I hope that for this has been beneficial to someone in terms of like understanding marriage, understanding the principles of marriage. And I hope part one, when we was talking about Black Lives Matter and how we as Christian black men should be moving and what we're trying to do and how we should be pushing forward. And I hope this sparks conversation, not only just on this kind of platform, but beyond this with people who are trying to push the motive of Christ, trying to do kingdom advancement. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, man. So thank you guys. I appreciate you guys wholeheartedly. And yeah, we'll have to do part 3. So this has been the end of Conversation with Haych. The panel. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Bam, aka Kieran. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Tafari. We thank you guys, and we'll be back with more content very, very soon.